The Instagram notification pinged at 2:47 a.m., but I was already awake, staring at the ceiling and wondering why my wife Rachel hadn't come home yet. Her girls' night out was supposed to end hours ago. I grabbed my phone, expecting maybe a drunk text or a blurry selfie with her friends. Instead, I found myself looking at a photo that sent an icy chill down my spine. There was Rachel, my wife of 8 years, sitting on some guy's lap at Henderson's Lounge downtown. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, her face flushed with alcohol, and something else I didn't want to name. The man's face was partially turned away, but I could see enough. Designer shirt, arrogant smile, the kind of guy who thought he owned whatever room he walked into. The caption read, "Living my best life. Thanks, ladies, for the craziest night ever. No apologies. Living free." My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. Her friends were all laughing, posting fire emojis and "Yas Queen" messages. Monica, her best friend, had written, "What happens on girls' night stays on girls' night. Oopsie." I stared at that photo for 10 minutes, my mind racing. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of deployments, video calls from war zones, rebuilding our life every time I came home. And this was how she honored our vows. Without thinking, I screenshot the photo and posted it to my own Instagram with a simple caption, "First day of my new life." I changed my relationship status to divorced and tagged everyone who mattered, including her brother, Marcus Brennan, the most straight-laced attorney in all of Charlotte, North Carolina. Then I waited. The response was immediate and explosive. My phone started buzzing with notifications, comments, and messages. Friends, family, fellow soldiers, everyone had something to say. Some were supportive, others were shocked, but most were just hungry for drama. At 3:15 a.m., I heard Rachel's car in the driveway. She burst through the front door like a hurricane, her face twisted with rage. Still wearing her tight red dress from the party, makeup smeared. She looked nothing like the poised real estate agent I'd married. "What the hell is wrong with you, Marcus?" she screamed, waving her phone at me. "Have you lost your mind?" I was sitting at our kitchen table, laptop open, watching the social media wildfire I'd started. Our military community of Fort Braxton thrived on gossip, and I'd just given them the story of the year. Wrong with me? I stood up slowly. At 35, I'd learned to control my temper through 12 years of Army service and 3 combat tours. But tonight, that control was hanging by a thread. I'm not the one grinding on strangers while my husband's sleeping. It was just for fun. She threw her purse on the counter. God, you're so controlling. It was harmless. Harmless? I pulled up the photo on my laptop screen. This looks harmless to you? Rachel glanced at the image and her face went pale for just a second. Then the defiance came roaring back. You don't trust me after 8 years? That says everything about you, not me. Who is he? Nobody. Just some random guy at the bar? Monica dared me to take a photo. It meant nothing. But something in her voice told me she was lying. The way her eyes darted away, the slight tremor in her hands. I'd interrogated enemy combatants who were better liars than this. My phone rang. Marcus Brennan's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Rachel hissed. I put it on speaker. Hello, Marcus. Marcus Davidson. What in God's name is going on? I'm getting calls from half the base about some social media nonsense. Ask your sister. Rachel, explain yourself now. She grabbed the phone. Marcus, it's nothing. Mark's having some kind of breakdown. The photo was just a silly dare. A dare that's now been shared 300 times, I said. The Basewives blog just picked it up. Rachel's face went white. What? I refreshed my browser. Fort Braxton Community News. Local soldier exposes wife's infidelity in viral post. Congratulations, honey. You're famous. This is insane, she shouted. You're ruining everything over nothing. I'm ruining everything? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm not the one who decided to straddle a stranger while I was sleeping at home. Marcus's voice crackled through the phone. That's enough, both of you. Rachel, come to my place. We'll discuss this like adults. After she left, I sat in my kitchen and watched the story explode across social media. Friends from basic training were commenting. My unit buddies were weighing in. Even my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, had somehow found the post and left a string of shocked face emojis. But as the adrenaline faded, a nagging feeling settled in my gut. Rachel's reaction had been too extreme, too defensive. And that man in the photo, there was something familiar about him, even with his face partially hidden. I was going to find out who he was. Drop a comment below if you think Marcus did the right thing by exposing her. The next morning brought a parade of phone calls, text messages, and unexpected visitors. Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door at 7 a.m. with a casserole and a hungry look in her eyes. Such a shame, dear, she said, bustling into my kitchen uninvited. Though I have to say, I always wondered about that girl. Too flashy, if you ask me. And those late showings at night. Late showings? Oh, yes, working until all hours, though between you and me, I saw her car leave at 5:30 most days, then come back around 9 or 10. Strange way to show houses, don't you think? I filed that information away and called my best friend Jake, who managed Riley's pub downtown. If anyone knew the local gossip, it was Jake. Dude, you broke the internet, he said when he answered. Half the base is talking about it. The other half is sharing memes. I need a favor. Can you meet me for lunch? Already clearing my schedule. We met at Riley's during the slow afternoon shift. Jake poured me a beer and slid a basket of wings across the bar. So, what's the real story? He asked. I showed him the photo again. Look at this guy, really look at him. Jake studied the screen, then his eyes widened. Holy crap, is that Brandon Corso? Who's Brandon Corso? Senior broker at Pinnacle Realty, Marcus's top earner, drives a Tesla, thinks he's God's gift to women. He comes in here sometimes with clients. Jake paused. Mark, if Rachel's messing around with Brandon Corso, this is bigger than just cheating. That guy's her direct supervisor. The pieces started clicking into place. The late nights, the defensive reaction, the panic in her eyes when I posted that photo. This wasn't just about a drunken mistake at girls' night out. I need to know for sure. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to do some investigating. Jake grinned. Count me in. But first, you should know your little social media stunt cost Brandon some serious face. Word is Marcus called him into the office this morning. The whole company's buzzing about it. That afternoon, I drove to Rachel's office building and parked across the street. At 5:30, just like Mrs. Patterson had said, Rachel walked out to her car. But instead of driving home, she pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward downtown. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding. She drove to the lakeside condominiums, the expensive complex by the waterfront. I watched her park and walk into Tower B like she'd done it 100 times before. 20 minutes later, she emerged with a tall man in an expensive suit. Even from a distance, I recognized him from the photo. Brandon Corso. They got into his Tesla and drove off together. I sat in my truck for an hour, processing what I'd just seen. This wasn't a one-night mistake. This was an affair. When I got home, I called my old army buddy Xavier, who now ran a private security company in Raleigh. I need help with something, I told him. What kind of help? The kind you're good at. Research, surveillance, maybe some creative problem solving. Xavier chuckled. Sounds like someone's in trouble. What's the situation? I explained everything. The photo, the investigation, what I'd discovered about Brandon. So you want to know how deep this goes? I want to know everything, how long it's been going on, what they're planning, all of it. Give me 48 hours. Make sure you're subscribed because this story takes a wild turn you won't believe. The next morning brought more surprises. Monica, Rachel's best friend, showed up at my door looking nervous. We need to talk, she said. I let her in, noting how she avoided eye contact. Look, Mark, I feel terrible about all this. The photo thing got way out of hand. Did it? Or did it just expose what was already happening? She fidgeted with her purse strap. I don't know what you mean. Brandon Corso. How long has Rachel been seeing him? Monica's face crumpled. I can't. I promised I wouldn't. Monica, I saw them together yesterday. I know about the condo. The only question is whether you're going to help me understand what's been going on, or whether you're going to keep lying for her. She started crying then, mascara running down her cheeks. 6 months, she whispered. It started 6 months ago at the company awards banquet. She said it was just physical, that she loved you but needed something exciting. She made me promise not to tell anyone. And you thought that was okay? I thought it would burn out. I thought she'd get it out of her system and stay with you. But then she started talking about maybe leaving you, and I panicked. I thought if she had one last wild night, she'd realize what she was giving up. So girls' night out was what? A test? She wanted to see if she could walk away from him. But when he showed up at the bar... Monica shook her head. She lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July. That's when I knew she was in love with him. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Not just the cheating, but the elaborate deception. The months of living a lie while I thought everything was fine. There's more, Monica said quietly. Brandon's been promising to leave his wife. He says once he closes the Riverside development deal, he'll have enough money to make a clean break. Rachel thinks they're going to run away together. His wife? Brandon's married, has been for 12 years. 3 kids in private school. I stared at her. And Rachel knows this? She thinks she's different, that he really loves her. After Monica left, I sat in my garage, surrounded by my tools and gear from my last deployment, and planned my next move. For 8 years, I'd been the steady, reliable soldier. The one who followed orders, who kept his head down and did his job. But Rachel and Brandon had made one crucial mistake. They'd humiliated me publicly, thinking I'd just take it and fade away quietly. They were about to learn that soldiers don't surrender. Xavier called me at 6 a.m. on Friday with news. Your girl's been busy, he said. I've got hotel receipts, credit card statements, and enough text messages to write a romance novel. Want the highlights? Give me everything. They've been meeting twice a week for 6 months. Always the same hotel, the Harbor Grand. Brandon pays cash, but Rachel's been using her credit card for dinners, gifts, even lingerie. She's not exactly covering her tracks. What about the texts? That's where it gets interesting. Brandon's been feeding her a line about closing this big real estate deal, leaving his wife, the whole fairy tale. But I did some digging into his finances. Guy's leverage to the hilt. Big mortgage, kids' school tuition, country club memberships. He's not leaving his wife anytime soon. Does Rachel know that? Based on these messages, she's planning to move in with him after your divorce gets finalized. She's already been looking at apartments. The betrayal cut deeper with each new detail. While I'd been serving my country, she'd been planning her escape. There's one more thing, Xavier said. Brandon's got a reputation at work. This isn't his first affair. Word is he's done this dance before. Promises to leave his wife, strings the woman along for months, then disappears when things get complicated. Send me everything you've got. Already in your email. What are you planning? I'm planning to give them exactly what they deserve. That evening, I drove to Riley's to meet Jake. The bar was crowded with the usual Friday night crowd, but Jake had saved me a seat at the end where we could talk privately. You look like hell, he said, sliding a beer across the bar. Feel worse, but I've got a plan. I filled him in on what Xavier had discovered. Jake's expression grew darker with each detail. So, what's the play? First, I'm going to have a conversation with Brandon. Man to man. You sure that's smart? Guy like that probably has lawyers on speed dial. I'm not going to threaten him. Just going to make sure he understands the situation. At 9 p.m., I drove to the lakeside condominiums and waited. Sure enough, Brandon's Tesla pulled into the parking lot. I watched him walk toward Tower B, then got out of my truck. Brandon Corso? He turned, squinting in the dim light. Who's asking? Marcus Davidson. I think you know who I am. His face went pale, but he tried to maintain his composure. Look, if this is about that photo, it's about a lot more than the photo. I stepped closer, noting how he instinctively backed toward his car. For all his expensive clothes and smooth talk, Brandon was soft. Probably hadn't been in a real fight since middle school. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to end whatever this is with Rachel tonight, and you're going to stay away from her. You can't tell me what to do. Actually, I can. See, I know about your wife, your kids, your mortgage payments. I know about the other women you've done this to. And I know that Marcus Brennan values his company's reputation above everything else. Brandon's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. You're threatening me? I'm informing you. There's a difference. Rachel is an adult. She can make her own choices. You're right, she can, but so can I. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. A draft email to Marcus Brennan with photos, hotel receipts, and text message screenshots attached. One click sends this to your boss, your wife, and every military spouse group in Charlotte. Your choice. Brandon stared at the phone, then at me. You're bluffing. I hit send. Oops. The color drained from his face. You son of a... He lunged at me. But 12 years of Army combatives training and 3 combat tours had left me in better shape than his gym membership could match. I sidestepped his clumsy swing and grabbed his wrist, twisting his arm behind his back. Here's some free advice, I said quietly. Next time you want to destroy someone's life, make sure they don't know how to fight back. I released him and walked back to my truck, leaving him standing in the parking lot, probably wondering how fast he could update his LinkedIn. My phone started ringing before I even got home. First Rachel, then Marcus, then numbers I didn't recognize. I let them all go to voicemail. Comment below if you think Brandon deserved what he got. The next morning, I woke up to find my story had gone viral again. Someone had recorded video of my confrontation with Brandon and posted it online. The comments were brutal, and most of them were on my side. Local soldier school's cheating boss. This is how you handle a homewrecker. Brandon Corso got what he deserved. At 10:00 a.m., Rachel showed up at my house. She looked like she hadn't slept, her usually perfect appearance disheveled and desperate. You destroyed everything, she screamed the moment I opened the door. I destroyed everything? That's rich. Brandon lost his job. Marcus fired him this morning. Good. How can you be so cruel? We love each other. I laughed. Love? Rachel, you were a game to him, just like the other women he's done this to. That's not true. Ask him about Jennifer Taylor or Amy Park, both former employees who thought they were special too. Her face crumpled. You're lying. Am I? When's the last time you heard from Brandon? Since yesterday. I mean, she pulled out her phone and I could see her scrolling through messages. Her expression changed as she realized what I already knew. Brandon had gone silent. He's probably just figuring out what to do next, she said, but the confidence was gone from her voice. He's probably figuring out how to explain this to his wife without losing half his assets in a divorce. You don't understand what we have. I understand exactly what you have. 6 months of hotel rooms and lies. And now it's over. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact second she realized I was right. Brandon wasn't coming to rescue her. He wasn't leaving his wife. He wasn't even returning her calls. I hate you, she whispered. That's fine, but you're going to hate yourself more when you realize what you threw away. After she left, I called Jake. How's it feel to be the most famous man in Fort Braxton? He asked. Like I'm just getting started. The next week brought a parade of consequences that rippled through our community like grenades thrown in a firefight. Brandon Corso disappeared entirely. Rumor had it his wife kicked him out and he was staying in a motel while looking for work in another state. Rachel moved back in with her brother, who was so embarrassed by the scandal that he barely left his house. But my so-called friends were a different story. It started with Derek and Jennifer Taylor. Yes, the same Jennifer that Brandon had apparently seduced and discarded 2 years earlier. They'd been part of our regular social circle, weekend barbecues and game nights, the kind of friends you expect to have forever. Derek called me on Thursday evening. "We need to talk," he said, his voice cold. "About what?" "About what you did to Brandon and to Rachel." "What I did?" "Don't play dumb, Mark. You destroyed 2 people's lives over a stupid photo." I was quiet for a moment, processing this. "Derek, you do realize Brandon was having an affair with my wife, right? And that he did the same thing to your wife 2 years ago?" "That's different. Jennifer and I worked through our problems. We're stronger now." "So I should have just let it slide? Stayed married to Rachel and pretended nothing happened?" "You should have handled it privately, like an adult. Instead, you turned it into a public circus." The conversation went downhill from there. Derek accused me of being vindictive and cruel. I accused him of having selective memory about his own wife's affair. We both said things we couldn't take back. He wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, I heard from Tyler and Sandra Brooks, Kevin and Lisa Park, and several other couples from our social circle. The message was consistent. I'd gone too far. I was the villain in this story. It became clear they'd been talking among themselves, building a narrative where I was the bad guy and Rachel and Brandon were the victims of my vindictive revenge plot. If you're still watching, smash that like button and let me know in the comments if you think Marcus was justified. The breaking point came on Saturday night at Riley's. I was having a quiet drink with Jake when Derek walked in with Tyler Brooks and Kevin Park. They spotted me immediately and made a beeline for my table. "Well, look who's here," Derek said loudly enough for half the bar to hear. "The base's newest celebrity." "Derek, don't do this here." "Why not? You didn't mind making your business public before." Tyler stepped closer. "You know what you are, Mark? You're a bitter, small man who couldn't handle the fact that his woman found someone better." The bar went quiet. Everyone was watching now, phones probably already recording. "Someone better?" I stood up slowly. "You mean a married man who was using her for fun while lying about leaving his wife?" "At least Brandon treated her like a queen," Kevin added. "When's the last time you took Rachel somewhere nice? When's the last time you bought her flowers or jewelry or made her feel special?" "I was deployed in Afghanistan. Serving my country." "Because you're boring," Derek shouted. "You're a grunt with no ambition, no class, no future. Rachel deserves better than fixing Humvees for the rest of her life." The words hit like physical blows. These were supposed to be my friends, people who'd known me for years, who'd eaten at my table and celebrated holidays with me. "You want to know what's really pathetic?" Tyler continued. "You're so insecure that you had to destroy everyone else's happiness because you couldn't keep your own woman satisfied." "That's enough," Jake said, stepping between us. "Stay out of this, Jake," Derek snapped. "This is between us and your loser friend here." Something snapped inside me then. The weeks of humiliation, betrayal, and now this. My own friends turning on me to defend the people who'd wronged me. "You want to know what's pathetic?" I said, my voice deadly calm. "What's pathetic is 3 grown men ganging up on someone because they're too spineless to admit their own wives probably cheated too." "What did you say?" Kevin stepped forward. "You heard me. Jennifer definitely did, with Brandon. And I'm betting if I looked hard enough, I'd find out about the others too." Derek swung at me then, a clumsy haymaker that I saw coming from a mile away. I ducked and came up with an uppercut that caught him in the solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Tyler grabbed a beer bottle and came at me, but Jake tackled him before he could swing it. Kevin tried to circle around behind me, but I spun and caught him with an elbow to the ribs that sent him stumbling backward into a table. The fight was over in 30 seconds, but the damage was done. Not just the physical damage, though Derek would be sore for a week and Kevin would have a nice bruise on his ribs, but the social damage. The final burning of bridges that could never be rebuilt. "Get out," Jake told them as they picked themselves up off the floor. "All of you. And don't come back." As they limped toward the door, Derek turned back to me. "This isn't over, Mark. We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "They already know," I replied. "I'm the kind who fights back." After they left, the bar slowly returned to normal, but I could feel the stares and whispers. Some people were clearly on my side, but others looked at me like I was a ticking time bomb. "You okay?" Jake asked. "Never better." But that was a lie. The fight had felt good in the moment, but now I was facing the reality of my situation. I'd lost my wife, my friends, and probably my reputation in this tight-knit military community where everyone knew everyone else's business. The smart thing would be to lay low, let the gossip die down, maybe even request a transfer to another base. But I'd never been accused of being smart. Monday morning brought the consequences of Saturday night's bar fight. My phone was buzzing with notifications. Someone had recorded the whole thing and posted it online. The video was grainy and the audio was poor, but you could clearly see me fighting 3 men, and winning. The comments were split between people calling me a hero and others calling me a violent thug. The local Facebook groups were having heated debates about whether I was justified or just another example of toxic masculinity run amok. But the real surprise came when Xavier called. "You've been busy," he said. "News travels fast." "Faster than you think. I've got some interesting information about your former friends." "Such as?" "Such as the fact that they've been planning this for weeks. Ever since the Brandon situation went public, they've been meeting at Derek's house, coordinating their response." "Coordinating how?" "Phone records, social media posts, even some emails. They've been working to turn your entire social circle against you. The goal was to isolate you completely, make you the pariah while they position themselves as the reasonable adults." I felt a chill run down my spine. Why would they do that? Because you made them look bad. When you exposed Brandon and Rachel, you also exposed the fact that all of them knew what was going on and said nothing. They're covering their own asses by making you the villain. What else? Derek's been in contact with Rachel. They're planning something for this weekend. Some kind of public confrontation designed to make you look unstable. Where? The Veterans Day parade downtown. Lots of people, lots of cameras. Perfect place to provoke you into doing something stupid. The Veterans Day parade was Fort Braxton's biggest annual event. The entire community would be there, along with visitors from surrounding areas. If Derek and his crew were planning to ambush me there, it would be in front of thousands of people. "There's more," Xavier continued. "I did some digging into your friends' finances and personal lives like you suggested. Want to know what I found?" "Tell me." Tyler Brooks has been having an affair with his assistant for 8 months. Kevin Park's been embezzling from his contracting business to pay gambling debts. And Derek Morrison? He's been buying drugs from a dealer in Raleigh. Not just weed. We're talking prescription pills, the kind that gets you dishonorable discharge. I sat back in my chair, processing this information. My former friends weren't just hypocrites, they were criminals. Can you prove all this? Photos, financial records, text messages. These guys aren't as careful as they think they are. Send me everything. What are you planning? I'm planning to give them exactly what they're planning to give me. A public humiliation they'll never recover from. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you do not want to miss what happens next. Saturday arrived crisp and clear. Perfect November weather in North Carolina. The Veterans Day parade was set up along Main Street with food trucks, vendor booths, and a reviewing stand for local officials. Despite the cold, thousands of people had turned out for the annual tradition. I arrived around noon wearing my dress uniform, looking like any other veteran enjoying the parade. But I wasn't there for the festivities. I was there for war. I spotted Derek first, standing near the hot dog cart with Tyler and Kevin. They were scanning the crowd, clearly looking for me. Nearby, I could see Rachel talking with some of her former co-workers, occasionally glancing in Derek's direction. They were all here. Perfect. I walked over to the reviewing stand where the ceremony organizers were setting up. The parade coordinator, Betty Walsh, was standing nearby with a clipboard. "Betty, can I borrow the microphone for a minute?" I asked. "Sure, Sergeant. You want to make an announcement?" "Something like that." I climbed onto the platform as the color guard was preparing for their presentation. The microphone was still hot, and when I tapped it, the sound echoed down Main Street. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The crowd slowly turned toward the platform. I could see Derek and his friends pushing through the people, realizing what was happening but unable to stop it. For those who don't know me, I'm Sergeant Marcus Davidson. I've served this country for 12 years, including 3 combat tours. And I've always believed in treating people with honesty and respect. The street was quiet now, except for the sound of wind rustling through the American flags lining the parade route. Recently, some people have been spreading stories about me, calling me unstable, violent, a bad friend. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to set the record straight. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the sound system. This is a recording of Derek Morrison arranging a drug deal in Raleigh last month. The audio was crystal clear. Derek's voice discussing prices and quantities, arranging regular shipments. The crowd murmured as they recognized his voice. Derek's face went white. He started pushing toward the platform, but there were too many people in the way. This next recording is Tyler Brooks on the phone with his assistant, discussing their affair and how to hide it from his wife. Tyler's voice filled the street, talking about hotel rooms and lies, laughing about how clueless his wife was. I could see Sandra Brooks in the crowd, her face a mask of shock and rage. And finally, we have Kevin Park discussing how he's been stealing money from his contracting business to pay off gambling debts. Kevin's voice was the final nail in the coffin, casually discussing his embezzlement like it was a minor accounting error. The crowd was buzzing now. People pulling out phones to record, others calling friends to tell them what was happening. "These are the men who called me unstable," I said into the microphone. "These are the people who said I went too far when I exposed my wife's affair. I'll let you decide who the real villains are in this story." I unplugged my phone and stepped down from the platform. Derek, Tyler, and Kevin had finally made it through the crowd, their faces twisted with rage and panic. "You son of a—" Derek screamed, launching himself at me, but I was ready for him. I sidestepped his charge and let his momentum carry him into the platform. He hit it hard and went down in a tangle of limbs. Tyler came next, swinging wildly. I caught his wrist and twisted, using his own force to flip him over my hip. He landed hard on the pavement and didn't get up. Kevin was smarter. He pulled out a knife. The crowd screamed and scattered as Kevin advanced on me, the blade gleaming in the November sun. But 12 years of Army combatives training had taught me how to handle armed opponents. I grabbed a folding chair from nearby and used it to block his first thrust. The knife stuck in the metal frame, and while he was trying to pull it free, I swung the chair around and caught him in the side of the head. He dropped like a stone. The whole fight had lasted maybe 90 seconds, but it felt like hours. I stood in the middle of Main Street, surrounded by my defeated enemies, while thousands of people stared at me in shock. Then the applause started. It began with one person, an older veteran in a Vietnam War cap, then spread through the crowd like wildfire. People were cheering, whistling, taking pictures and videos. Someone shouted, "That's how you handle traitors!" And the crowd roared its approval. I looked around and saw Rachel standing near the hot dog cart, her face pale with shock. Our eyes met across the street, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. She was finally beginning to understand what she'd unleashed when she decided to betray me. But I wasn't done yet. I walked over to where she was standing, the crowd parting before me like I was Moses crossing the Red Sea. "Hello, Rachel." "Mark, please. I have something for you." I pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. She opened it with shaking hands and pulled out a stack of photographs and documents. "Those are pictures of Brandon with his wife and kids at Disney World last weekend," I said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "along with the lease agreement for their new house in Atlanta. And it turns out he didn't lose his job after all. He got transferred and he took his family with him." Rachel stared at the photos, her face crumbling as she realized the truth. Brandon hadn't been ruined by our scandal. He'd used it as an excuse to disappear and start fresh somewhere else, just like he'd probably done before. "He never loved you," I said quietly. "You were just another game to him." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "How did you—" "I hired a private investigator. Turns out, Brandon's done this same routine in 4 different cities. Always targets ambitious women. Always promises to leave his wife. Always disappears when things get complicated." The crowd was listening to every word. Phones recording everything. Rachel's humiliation was now complete and public, just like mine had been. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our true crime stories.